Guys, I'm Nithya, and we're here today with Masala Chai with Dr. Aunties, and we're just going to be talking about our motherhood experiences and what were the most surprising things that we encountered. And of course, I'm here with Sonal,
Hi.
wonderful pediatrician. So we'll go ahead and get started. So Sonal, what was the most surprising thing for you when you first became a mom?
I think, that is a really good question because there's a lot of things that are surprising, right? It's just I think one of the most surprising things to me, and this is, I think, why we work in the space that we do, is how much my body took as a toll, and no one told me about it. No one like alerted me, and how it took forever to recover. And I think that was the most surprising. Like I knew I always wanted to be a mom. Like that was not a surprise to me. Loved taking care of my babies. Yes, it's tiring. It's all of that, like changing diapers and stuff like that. But no one tells you about like how exhausted you are, not because you have to wake up every couple of hours, because that's one of it, but the fact that your body is going to take such a beating, I think, and you need to recover. Like, and we just don't allow that. So I think that was one of the most surprising things to me is how much my body took. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then, I think anytime you have a complication, that also takes an additional toll on your body. And I think there's this expectation, right? There's all this imagery of people like bouncing back from their
mm,
births. And, there's like, oh, I'm running a marathon 4 weeks postpartum. I'm like, dude, I was like barely getting out of the house at 4 weeks postpartum. But I think that just also speaks to how much variability there is in that postpartum. But anyway, whatever the case is, your body has, you've grown a human, now you've delivered a human. So your body does need some time to recover from that. And I think that we have a lot of expectations here in the US, which is where both of us are based, that women are like going to bounce back from giving birth. Like, I think there's just almost this expectation that we need less time to recover from it than somebody does to recover from like a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, which is a very minimally invasive procedure, right? But the guy in your office that had the lap chole, they're like, "Oh, you only had 6 weeks off," and I'm like, "Dude, you should be up and walking like in a week theoretically from that." Meanwhile, it's like you deliver a baby, and they're like, "Oh, you're back at 2 weeks. Why did you take so long?" What do you mean? Why did I take so long? So I
yeah.
think I think what you're saying is like so true. It's like we don't give ourselves enough time and enough grace for that period to really recover, because it is a recovery. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's not just because you're exhausted because your baby's up every few hours eating. Like your body also took a toll. So I think that's a super important point. The other thing, and this is kind of,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to interrupt you for 1 second. Can we talk about that word bounce back? I actually got interviewed recently and some reporter asked me that and I go, that what does that even mean? Because if you think like bounce back to your old
Mhm.
self, well, you're never going to be your old self. You
Yeah.
have this new life. And if you're talking about weight, I'm still not bounced back and my youngest is 7. Like what are we talking about bouncing back? Because in both realms, you're never going to be your old self
Mhm.
because you went through such a life-changing thing, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
why are you, yes, you definitely are hanging on to like your identity and stuff like that, but you're never going to be
Mhm.
that 25-year-old who can like party all night. Like it doesn't make sense. You chose this path and it's life-changing. It is life-changing. So
Mhm.
what do you think about the word bounce back?
So I really hate that word because it's not bouncing back. It's moving forward.
Yeah.
You're not bouncing back to who you were. You're in a new stage in your life. And I think it's fine to be in a new stage in your life. I think life is a constant um, kind of balance between like these different stages that we go through. And I think motherhood is a whole new stage. Like it's almost, I think there are parts that you're gonna miss about your old life, but you also have this whole new rich life that's in a whole different perspective because now you have this other being that you're taking care of. And I think I was talking to Michelle Hagerty, which is one of our other colleagues in the space, and I was like, fourth trimester is like life on steroids. You know, it's all of the emotions. Like it's fear, it's enjoyment, it's happiness, it's love, but it's also being scared and recovering and painful. But and so it's kind of it's everything, and it's hyper intense because it's around one of those periods of transition that many people go through, and not everyone becomes a parent, so not everyone goes through that. But when you do go through that, it's this enormous transformative experience, and it's going to take time to recover from it. But I think it's also important for us to recognize that you're becoming a new version of yourself, and you're still yourself. You still have those pieces of you that were there in that last stage, but it's a different phase of life. And the same thing's going to happen as your children grow, right? As they leave your home, now you have to again redefine yourself. You're still their parent, but now there's all this other space for you to grow and develop and change how you are existing in this world. So I think I hate that term bounce back, because no one's bouncing anywhere. You're growing, you're
bouncing
changing.
forward, right? I like you're
Exactly.
moving forward. I like
Yeah.
because like if you think about it, if you're 25, would you really want to be 15 again? Like
No.
you moved forward from life's experience because you had life changing experience. Like maybe you went to
Yeah.
college, maybe you went to post grad, maybe you went to the Peace Corps. I mean, all of those things make you grow as a human being and as a person, and so is motherhood. And yeah, I don't yeah, there's certain things I miss, but I don't think like yeah, I wouldn't want to be like 22 again. I'm lost.
Right. Right. And it's like that was a phase in my life that existed, and enjoyed it, and I was happy in it. But that's just not where I am anymore. And it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to mourn that period. It's okay to feel like, oh man, I'm not who I was anymore. But I think it's also important to recognize that you're moving forward through life to a new phase, to a new place. And even if you don't have kids, you're going to go through those same changes. Like you're at 40 or 50 or 60, you're not going to be going out partying for the most part, right? Or you're not going to be going out doing the things you were doing at 20, and that's okay, because that's a part of life. That's part of those natural transitions in life. And so I think what you said, at the beginning is like, that's one of the surprising things, is like, it's kind of a shock to your system that things have changed so much and that you have to recover. And a part of that recovery is kind of finding your new self and moving forward. It's not about bouncing back to somebody you used to be, because part of life is growth, and you can't grow if you're stagnant and staying in the same place. So yeah, I think that's just a really important thing. I think that what is surprising, and I don't think you can anticipate it before you have your baby. But I think it's just such a fun thing to grow through. In some ways, it's also difficult and hard. And yeah, just like life on steroids, that's what the fourth trimester is.
Wow.
And
So
then a
what
surprising. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no. Yeah, I was gonna ask you what surprised you the most?
Yeah, so this is actually something I think further out that I realized. But when you have your first baby, I think there's this focus on trying to do everything perfectly based on what society thinks you should do. I think, especially with us being physicians, like we have a lot of like book education, or like reading knowledge about what babies are supposed to be, or what motherhood is supposed to be like. And so then you're trying to like fit everything into those boxes that you learned about. And now that I'm, like 4 or 5 years into this journey, I'm realizing that some of the things my mom told me were actually like the things that were accurate, and all those things I learned were maybe less accurate. I don't know. And I think we've talked about this before. I think you've noticed some of the same things, but it's kind of like, my mom told me, oh, you should eat dal chadam. And I'm like, why should I eat dal rice? I think I'm supposed to like drink like 15 liters of fluid. It's like, no, I need to drink the fluid, but I also need to eat that healthy food that's good for me. And so I think just like the different things that, looking back, my mom like told me all these things. I was kind of like, no, that's not what I learned. But then when I look at it, I'm like, no, man, that's what I should have listened to, is that wisdom, right? That wisdom that comes with experience. And I'm not saying like ignore one or the other, because I think there's a place for both, and a balance between, what we know scientifically and logically, and what we learn from our parents, and, those wise women that came before us that have been through all this. But yeah, I think that's one of the things, just reflecting a lot recently. I'm like, man, my mom like she gave me so much good advice, and I should have listened to her more that first time around.
So what you're telling me is you learned from motherhood that your mom's right.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
dang it, she was right all along. And did you? I grew up with the statements, once you become a parent, you'll know. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I remember that distinctly. And I was like, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Like, yes, I understand now. Yes, you were right all along. Oh, yeah. I mean, the other thing is just, the other thing is the other comment that I personally don't like is like, enjoy them now because they're going to grow up. And I just felt that now that my oldest is 16, my youngest is now 7, I mean, the big milestones was like I didn't have to wipe someone's butt when after they pooped. My husband and I both took the day off when all the kids were in school. Like those were kind of milestones. And
Yeah.
yes, like you going through life, those phases are there. I mean, we have 4 kids because we kept missing the baby phase, but now like we're like, okay. But I enjoy the other phases when my kids are going through too. I think it's awesome seeing their personalities develop. It's awesome talking about real world issues with my 16-year-old. It's awesome that, one of my favorite books, it's Scarlet Pimpernel, by the way. Both my older 2 boys have loved it, enjoyed it. We've talked about it. And I think that's one advice that I really don't like. Oh, enjoy them when they grow so fast. Yes, they grow. That's what they're supposed to do. But could we start enjoying every part of their growth as well? That yes, I'm going to miss the fact that my oldest used to say "fruck" for truck. Yeah, it sounds like that. Or
Yeah.
my 7-year-old is like, kind of being all bossy with his 16-year-old brother. But I want to enjoy that also. Like that's a phase
Yeah.
of life. So I think that's another term that I never really like. Enjoy them when
Like,
they're young. So what is going to happen when they're older? Like, and what does that mean? It's like
yeah.
I'm enjoying all of this. Yeah. So that's another term that I was like, yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
And I think that totally speaks to like being present in the present, right? Not worrying as much about when they're going to stop doing something. Like enjoy what they're doing now, and then also celebrate when they move beyond that. And like you said, like the last time you wipe a bum or the last time you change a diaper. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like, okay, I changed so many diapers. I'm a little nostalgic. This isn't happening anymore. But at the same time, like, yay, no more diapers.
But you don't
Right?
have to
So,
wipe it. Well, even the potty training, right? Like you have to wipe their butts after even when that was done, you're like, I don't have to clean anyone's butt. They can just go poop on their own.
right. And so I think it's so true. Like enjoy where you are now in their stages. Don't and I think the idea that like, oh, just enjoy them when they're little because it's not gonna last, like that doesn't help if you're struggling with something either, right? That's the thing that was super frustrating when people would say that to me. I'm like, dude, I'm like recovering from a really tough delivery, like a really traumatic delivery. And okay, I'm enjoying my baby, but I don't need you to keep telling me that. I need you to like support me and help me in this phase, in this, in that fourth trimester, or even beyond that fourth trimester. Sometimes healing takes longer, and it's not just physical healing, there's also emotional healing because of all the trauma that exists in this country. And so, like, yes, enjoy your kids. Of course, enjoy your kids, but you don't have to enjoy them all the time, every single second. And you're also allowed to enjoy being in the next phase and not having to worry about some of the things about the baby phase.
Yeah. I mean, it was so awesome to see this human being that is so reliant on you
Right.
start rolling over at 4 months and then start crawling because my oldest was really like the minute he rolled over, he decided he needs to see the world. So he was walking and talking by 9 months.
Yeah.
But my second oldest took forever to walk. But it was just fun seeing that, like seeing their first steps, seeing them, do the milestones, seeing them talking, and just having personalities come out. And I mean, I think that's one advice I like to give all parents. It's like, yeah, like you said, Nithya, it's like nice to cuddle with them and snuggle with them. And yes, definitely that is such an unique and awesome part of the phase. But and I was at a home visit the other day too, and I said this to the mom, and I go, it's really not fair because like I was holding her baby and the baby was snuggled and I was enjoying that. And
Right.
the minute I put the baby down, it wanted to nurse and I had to give it back to mom, right? But it's not
Right.
really not fair to that mom because they're so dependent on them, but I get to enjoy the snuggles a little bit more because I know I'm not responsible for
Mhm.
that baby. So I was like, that's kind of unfair. We should be like seahorses, right? The male carries, the woman takes care, so your body doesn't have to go through all of it. That's how it should be. That's how equal division of reproduction.
Yeah, and there was this great meme I saw, and it was I think it was Ryan Reynolds or someone, and he's like, just change the diaper. Your wife just pushed a human out of her body or delivered that baby somehow.
Yeah,
Just change the diaper, man. Like that's your job as the dad. Do the dirty work. She's already done her job. I was
so
like, that's
true.
so true, man. Like, it's like we do so much and we're expected to do so much. And then it's like a husband changes one diaper and they're like the dad of the year. And, you see that all the time. Whereas, like, really, they're just
Yes.
being the parent. They're just being the other parent. And
Yes.
that's, applaud them for doing a good job, but applaud mom too. Like, we're doing so much. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that that's one of the things that I don't think you realize before having babies is like how much of a disparity there is between like the birthing parent and the non-birthing parent.
Yeah.
Like you don't get any. I don't know. There's very minimal support in the society for the birthing person or the lactating parent, and then the other person, if they do anything, they're like, "Oh my god, he changed the
Oh,
diaper. He picked the baby up." Like, okay, he picked the baby up. What do you want?
my favorite was growing when my kids were growing up was like, and then like, who's gonna babysit us? Your dad. So on that note, and we'll kind of tally up this thing. PSA to all the South Asian mothers and mother-in-laws, your son or son-in-law can change that diaper, can cook the meals, can do all of that, and it's called a partnership. And please do not be like, oh my God, my son XYZ or my son-in-law does so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, that please stop doing that. Please stop perpetuating that rhetoric that we're going to put the boys in this pedestal and then the girls need to do all of this stuff. Yeah, so that's my PSA. That was my biggest like
Yeah.
like, dude, like you said, just change the damn diaper.
Yes, exactly. It's like I've done enough at this point. Your turn.
No, just change it. It's okay. It's okay. And I'm sorry, it's okay if you have to go back to work and you come home and you change the diaper. Guess what? It's not been a party at home. Like we're not sitting
Right.
eating bonbons.
Yeah.
Wish we were sitting eating bonbons, but we're not.
Yeah.
So it's okay to give us like 20 minutes of a break.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was fun. So now I like to talk
yeah.
about those surprises. Thanks, guys. Okay. So what was surprising to you? Drop it in the comments and let us know if you want us to talk about anything in a future episode. Thank you for joining us.